Welcome to another night in the NBA. This is your 10-minute recap of the last night of NBA hoops. And the main topic of the night for me is this game between the Knicks and the Sixers. A game that, wasn't expected to be fantastic by any means. No Tyrese Maxey for the Sixers. Joel Embiid was still out as well. And the Knicks, as they have been for a while, are missing 3 out of their 5 real starters. So it wasn't expected to be some duel of elite teams or anything, but no one expected it to be as bad as it was, because this is maybe the worst game that I can remember, the worst game of the modern era of NBA basketball, the pace and space, high speed game that we've come to enjoy over the past few years. This was not that. This was a throwback to the 80s or 90s, because the final score of this game was 76ers 79, Knicks 73. It was the first game in 8 years where neither team scored 80 points. The lowest scoring Knicks game since 2018, which is funny because they held the Magic to 74 the other night, which was their best opponent points since 2012. But then they go out and put up an even worse stinker themselves just a couple days later, and it was an awful look for both teams. Neither team shoots 40% from the field. Let me get you some numbers here. 38.8% from the field for the 76ers, including 9 of 30 from deep. And then you look at the Knicks, 32.5% from the field. Has to be one of the worst shooting games of all time. It is horrendous. It's not even just they were sub 40, they were 32.5, including 9 of 40 from three-point range for 22.5%, 19 turnovers for the Knicks, 13 turnovers for the Sixers. This is just ugly basketball, in one of the worst games of the last 30 years. Probably is the worst game of the last 10. Leading score of the game for both sides, let me check here, is 19 points for Jalen Brunson, who shot 27.3% for the game, and after the game said that he played like dog shit. He kept it really honest that he was awful. He just wasn't good, and nobody on either team seemed like they were good tonight, because while Isaiah Hartenstein shot 100% from the field, he had 3 points, so it's not exactly a lot of really impressive play from either side. The Sixers get 16 from Buddy Hield on 66% from the field, probably the best performing player in this game. Kelly Oubre with 18 and 10 on 32%. Kelly Oubre and Dante DiVincenzo even got into it. It got a little chippy, and Kelly Oubre, kind of wins the match, I guess, but it wasn't great overall, and the Sixers get a win, but not a win that you probably feel fantastic about, no matter who wins this game, because it was just so ugly from both sides. The rims were getting a lot of use on Sunday night in New York in the Garden, and just not a game that you want to remember, a game that both teams likely want to forget and move past, and that will be the goal for both of them, because this is one of the worst NBA games I've ever seen. But now let's move on to some other action from around the NBA, because those games were better. So, in other action around the NBA, we did have 8 other games on the night, 9 games in total, including that stinker I just talked about. But let's just start with the afternoon game and then move through them, get a glimpse of what went down. The Bucks take down the Clippers in LA. 124 to 117, but the second straight day game for the Clippers, and because of that they rest a couple guys. No Paul George, no Kawhi Leonard, both technically out with injuries, but it feels like rest more than anything else. So it's kind of just Norman Powell, James Harden, and the guys over there for LA, and because of that the Bucks take it. 35 for Dame and 34 for Giannis, looking like the pairing that the Bucks want to see moving forward. The Rockets take down the Kings 112 to 104, but probably they're not coming away from this game feeling very good, because Alperen Şengün goes down with what looks like a hyperextension of the right knee on a contest over Sabonis. Had to leave the game in a wheelchair, and if I had to guess, I'd say Şengün's season is probably over. We only have about 20-ish games left, maybe maybe even less than that. But Şengün, while he was in the game, put up 14 points in 29 minutes, 22 from Fred VanVleet. Sabonis continues his amazing stretch. He's been phenomenal this year. 25 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists on 91% shooting for Domantas Sabonis, but his team does not help him because as a whole, the Kings shoot 18.8% from 3 and lose the game. The Pacers get an upset win in Orlando, 111-97. They get 17 from McConnell, 17 from Toppin, 20 apiece from Halliburton and Siakam, and the Magic shoot 37.5% from the field and 25% from 3. Put up more than that 74 they did the other night, putting up 97 in this one, but still not the offensive showing you want to see, and the Pacers do take this one in Orlando. Then we have another upset win in Florida as the Wizards take down the Miami Heat in Miami, 110-108, 32 for Kyle Kuzma, 22 for Kispert, and 16 for Denny Avdia. Jordan Poole wasn't even good, but it doesn't matter because the Wizards come out on top. They shoot 41% from deep in this game, and the Heat, on the alternative, shoot just 30%, and their best player was probably Bam, who had 16 points and 16 rebounds, but the Wizards take that one in a shocker. The Pelicans cruise to an easy win in Atlanta, 116-103, 27 from Zion and 28 from Trey Murphy. If you haven't been paying attention to the Pelicans lately, Trey Murphy has been awesome. He's been on fire as of late, hitting just about everything from deep. He looks like an absolute sniper. Brandon Ingram only has 7 points, and it doesn't matter because Zion, Trey, and CJ McCollum play well enough to get the Pelicans the win. Then we have the Thunder taking an even easier win against the Grizzlies at home, 124-93. They get 22 from Cason Wallace, a nice performance from the rookie, and 23 from SGA, but they really split the scoring throughout. Their guys didn't have to play a ton of minutes. This one was over basically by halftime, and the Grizzlies, they get 30 from GG Jackson on over 50%, so that's solid for him, and a nice debut for Dejan Giroux, who puts up 7 points, 10 rebounds, and 5 assists. A -8 and a 31-point loss when you played almost 30 minutes. I'd call that a win for Giroux in his first NBA game, I believe, after just being given a standard, it was either a standard contract or a two-way, but was a G League guy now with the Grizzlies, and he was solid. The Nets take down the Cavs in Cleveland, 120-101, behind a second half scoring surge from Cam Thomas, who had 20 of his 29 in the second half, was a plus 27 in a game that they win by 19, easily the best on the team, and solid game for Cam. Has just recently returned from injury, and I'm impressed with how he's playing. And then we do have the last game of the night. The Lakers take down the Timberwolves, who don't have either of their starting big men. No Towns, who will be out for a while, and no Rudy Gobert as well. Lakers get 27 points and 25 rebounds from Anthony Davis. They get 29 from LeBron, 19 from Austin Reeves, and 13 and 6 from D'Lo. A little cooler D'Lo lately compared to what we've seen, but 25 from Naz Reid. He's been really impressive over the past couple since Towns went down, but the Lakers win it, and that'll do it for this night in the NBA, another night in the NBA. But now let's move on to the next segment. This is the Moneyline Hotline, the place that keeps your bets from going cold. So looking at the recent success of the predictions, we did hit day one of best bets of the day, the ladder. We go Pelicans minus 250 versus the Hawks. Play a little safe on day one. Turn your $10 to 14, or if you started at 25, you'd already be up to 35. And then today, March 11th, we have the second leg of the ladder, which is Mavs minus 174 versus the Bulls. Turn that 14 into 22.05. If you started at 25 after today, you'd be up to 55. So nice little start here. I think the Mavs, with everybody playing, everybody is probable or active for Dallas, and I think they'll take this one over the Bulls. Chicago has been quietly pretty good as of late, but Dallas needs these wins as much as ever if they're going to stay above the play-in tournament, and I think that's their end goal. Right now, they would be in the play-in tournament. They want to get up above it, so they need these wins, and I think they're going to take this very seriously. Luka as well has been phenomenal as of late, so the Mavs to me are the best bet of the day. I also really like Suns minus 250 versus the Cavs, but I didn't want to give you two 250s in a row. I wanted to give you a little bit better odds, so we're going to go with the Mavs today, but Suns minus 250, also very good if you want to play it a little safer. The big three are all projected to play. KD, Booker, and Beal all supposed to play today. Eric Gordon, the only guy that matters, out for Phoenix, and the Cavs have Mitchell, Strus, and Mobley out again. Just lost to the Nets yesterday, second night of a back-to-back. It feels like Phoenix is a no-brainer there, but we're going to take the Mavs for best bets, but Suns also pretty solid. Then we move on to the model predictions for today, March 11th, and the best bet, like I said, is Mavs, which is predicted +3 according to my model, which makes it not a flip game but a standard game, which is hitting around 65%, and the Mavs minus 174. Turn your $10 to $15.75, but like I said, if you're following the ladder, you'll be up around 22, or if you started at 25, you will be around 55. No projected underdogs in a small schedule of games, only 6 games on the day, and none are projected to go the other way than what is currently listed. But for the parlay, like I said, Suns and Mavs, both really good bets. Celtics to win over the Blazers. Celtics have a lot of guys questionable, but the model projects, even if all their top 5 guys are out, the Celtics would still be projected to win. So take Boston. Some of their guys will play, and Portland just not the level of team that Boston is. So unless they really get in their own heads, it should be the Celtics easily. The Warriors are playing the Spurs for the second straight time without Steph Curry, but I just don't think the Spurs are going to shoot over 50% from the field and from 3 again. That feels very unlikely, but those 4 together are plus 300. Turn $10 into 40 or 5 into 20, whatever you feel comfortable throwing down. As always, bet responsibly. But now let's get into the top 5 players of the night according to me. Anthony Davis comes in at number 1 with 27 points, 25 rebounds, 10 stocks. It was 7 steals and 3 blocks and 5 assists in their win over Minnesota. He was dominant. Domantas Sabonis comes in at 2, who's been awesome over the past few months. Basically, since we hit the new year, Sabonis has been one of the best players in the league. 25 points, 15 rebounds, 8 assists on 91% shooting from the field. He was elite. Then we have Dame at number 3 with 35 points, 11 assists, and 7 rebounds. And Giannis at number 4 with 34, 7, and 10, as well as a plus 19 and a 7-point win. Really impressive for Giannis. And then rounding out the top 5, we have Cam Thomas with 29 points, 7 rebounds, and 5 assists on 64% true shooting. His 20-point second half really won the Nets that game. LeBron, also a guy who could have made the list, as well as Zion, a few other honorable guys. But now let's get into the top play of the day, which is this one. This Brandon Boston poster slam over Giannis and another defender. Really impressive dunk for the Clippers youngster. But now let's get into the viewer-submitted questions. For the viewer-submitted questions, I put up a community post every day after the games asking for your guys' questions for a chance to be featured in the video, or you can put them in the comments of this one. That's fine. I'll still find you. But today we have 2 questions, and the first one comes from Jet Hoops, who asks, why are the New Orleans Pelicans underrated? It's a fair question. The Pelicans right now sit at 5th place in the Western Conference, just below that top 4, and with the Clippers, no Russell Westbrook, and with the Timberwolves, no Karl Anthony Towns. Both candidates to slip. The Clippers have been playing 500 ball basically since the All-Star break. Even like the week before that, they haven't been as good as the 3 months before that where they were dominant. The Clippers haven't been the same team, and the Timberwolves have already fallen from 1st place to 3rd place. So there are a couple teams that could drop, and maybe New Orleans could even climb. I've heard people say the Pelicans play like a team that just started playing together last week. That's That's not necessarily inaccurate, but I think a lot of that has to do with injuries. A lot of guys have been out, have missed time. That's kind of how it's always going to be for New Orleans. But outside of Dyson Daniels, pretty much everybody is playing right now, and that's really helped them find their rhythm. I think they've looked really good in games as of late. Zion kind of looks like the guy you want him to be again. He's kind of coming back to himself because he started the season as just like an okay guy, wasn't an all-star, but looks more like all-star Zion once again. Brandon Ingram on most nights looks really good, and Trey Murphy all of a sudden is giving you 20 plus pretty much every single night, often giving you nearly 30 because he's just hitting so many threes right now. There are a bunch of games where Trey Murphy just hits 6 or more threes, and it's been super impressive to watch. His development is going to be huge for this team and how impactful they could be, but Herb Jones also really improved. Looks like a much better offensive player this season than we've seen in the past, and the Pelicans are running a lot more action through Herb Jones, and he looks like a great two-way player. Jordan Hawkins can also come in some nights and just hit 6 threes himself. They have a lot of guys. I didn't even mention Valanciunas or McCollum. The Pelicans are dangerous. They're going to be a good team, and because of their size and physicality, they're a really bad matchup for some teams across the league. They dominate the Kings every single time they play. If they were to match up with the Kings in the first round somehow, the Pelicans should be easy favorites. And if they were to match up with a team like the Thunder, or maybe even the Clippers, who Zubac is their guy, but they're more of a smaller team, they could give those teams some trouble and maybe even take them down. So I think the Pelicans should get a lot more respect, and I think you're right that they are underrated. Then we can get into the last question, which comes to us from Barnaclehead1631. Cool name, I kind of like it. Then we have his question: can Embiid really stay in Philly and reach postseason success in a day of age where stars rather leave and win somewhere else? What's really the time frame for him as a 76er? Well, he had a lot more than that, but that's what we'll answer. So I think Joel Embiid, unless they like really flame out in the next 2 years, is probably going to be a Sixer for a long time, because he just seems like a guy who the city loves. The city of Philadelphia has really embraced Joel Embiid, and I think he loves being there. I think he wants to be there as long as possible, and I think he wants to bring a championship to Philly. If with this new group, they aren't great in the playoffs this year, especially with him being injured and coming back, I don't think there's going to be anything drastic with Embiid after this season. I feel pretty strongly about that, but maybe if they don't do it next year, then we could see him ask out, because like a lot of people have been talking about, they have a ton of projected cap space this summer. So if they take a risk on a guy and then it doesn't pan out next postseason, maybe you see Joel Embiid try to get out. But if we're being honest, a lot of the postseason shortcomings fall on the shoulders of Joel Embiid, so him asking out might not really be beneficial to himself or to the Sixers organization, because his scoring averages go down somewhat drastically in the playoffs, and even when he's there, he's often injured. So a lot of the postseason shortcomings are Embiid's fault, whether we want to admit it or not. So I don't think him asking out really makes any sense for him. He loves Philadelphia. He wants to be there. He needs to step it up himself in the postseason, and I think we'll see him do that. But right now, I just don't think there's any like near timetable where Joel Embiid asks out. But that'll do it for today's video, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the daily recaps, because I love making them, and hopefully you love watching them as well. But that'll be it for me. Think about subscribing. I'm on the road to 13,000 subscribers, so hopefully you enjoy. But again, that'll be it for me. Thanks for watching. Have a good one, guys. Peace.